Hey all, here at OS Reviews, you're watching our hands-on review of a 10-inch LCD writing tablet. This is based on technology that's been around for many years now, developed by a company called Boogie Board. Essentially, it's designed as a cheap replacement for sketch paper and for journals, which you may lose. They're not as eco-friendly if you're always throwing those papers away, and this could be something to consider because the cost was also supposed to be quite low. Through the years, Boogie Board has released many iterations, some which even have smart connected functionality that can sync the notes you're taking into a computer or to a phone. Similar to e-ink, the emphasis is on power consumption. As you're writing using the stylus or your finger, anything that exerts pressure by pushing physical pixels on the LCD panel around to display this image, and as it's showing this image, there's no power at all that's used. The only time that it takes a tiny little bit of electricity is when you tap on the power key to erase and wipe the screen to get to a new sheet of scratch paper, so to speak. So it's very interesting. It can go up to, let's say, thousands and thousands of page refreshes before you need to swap out the tiny little cell-based battery. All right, so this one is obviously a more generic third-party version of the Boogie Board. It's based completely on the same technology since it's been out already for many years. And in a way, I've been a little disappointed because I've always thought this technology was really cool and maybe should be implemented more in offices and schools, but it hasn't caught on as much as I would have liked to believe when I first came across this tech almost a decade ago. But now we have a pretty cheap version. This one sells for under $25. It's also much larger than the original Boogie Board, which was only about 6 to 7 inches. This one is 10 inches, so it's closer to a standard sheet of paper, should be more comfortable to use. And since this is a transflective screen, you can really easily read it even outdoors, anywhere where there's a little bit of natural lighting. You should be able to see everything just fine. So this is what the packaging is like. It's really simple. It just says eliminate the need for paper, sketch pads, and sticky notes, simply writing on this LCD screen. And this one does come with an integrated stylus, which is pretty cool. So it tucks away very nicely. It's also very rugged. Although it says LCD, there's really no need for any screen protectors or anything like that. You can actually drop this thing. It's very durable, and the technology that they used for the display is really the main selling point. All right, so if we take a quick look at what we have here, it seems like just the LCD writing tablet, and a nice little accessory that they threw in the box was also a carrying pouch. It reminds me a lot of a laptop case. But you can tuck it away inside if you want to keep it along with, let's say, another laptop or an Ultrabook, and it's a nice little fabric sleeve that you get as part of the $25. All right, so let's take a quick look at the tablet next. So again, a very basic design. It is made out of a coarse plastic material, and it's incredibly lightweight since, again, there's not really any internals, just the screen attached to a small circuit board for resetting the LCD panel and the power key. On the back here, we have the stylus, which is made out of plastic, but it tucks away pretty easily. You can also just use a pencil or your fingers. Anything that exerts a little bit of pressure will work on the screen. And this is a little compartment here that you can actually remove to have access to the coin battery. As a quick comparison, here is the Lenovo Yoga Book, which you can think of as a more expensive competitor in a sense, because the Yoga Book can also be used for note-taking, comes with a Wacom stylus, but of course you can do a lot more with it. You can store the notes instead of relying on you having to take a picture or something like that. However, again, it's much more expensive. But the overall dimensions, it's a 10-inch tablet. This one is also 10 inches, is actually quite similar. Same thing in terms of thickness. So let's try writing something such as hello world. And one thing you may be noticing is that the font, or at least the text in terms of contrast, seems a little bit dim. So you definitely want to be in an area where it's reasonably well lit. If you're in complete darkness, it's not going to work because it's a non-backlit display. It's transflective. But if you shine something, let's say like a flashlight over it, you can see it becomes a lot more visible. So indoors in offices, outdoors in the sun, in different types of field environments, it actually works really well, and it becomes not at all difficult to see. In terms of pressure sensitivity, it doesn't actually give you, lots of room for shading. So if you're trying to draw things as a graphic artist, it might not be the best because most of your images will still look 2D. And here's a different stylus just to prove that it still works in terms of writing functionally on the tablet. So if we draw something like a tree, for instance, you can see that it still becomes, again, pretty easy to use. So you're definitely not restricted only to the one stylus they give you. You can use any pen. You can even use, let's say, your nails, and it will still work as long as you apply a bit of pressure onto the device. It does seem like the surface is a little harder than on the actual Boogie boards, especially the first gen that I remember. On that model, it was a little bit too easy to write something on the display by accident. I remember where if I just wanted to apply a tiny little bit of pressure, or again, if a pen kind of like dropped on it, it would still kind of make a mark on the screen, which is obviously not quite ideal. Even though it's really smooth in terms of writing, it often would get messy very quickly, and you can write very small or very large, and for the most part it all remains quite legible, as you can see there, without problems. You can use it obviously for scratch work, for calculations, or for quick memos, as a to-do list, a grocery list around the house. You may want to put something like a ruler or an object on the display and then trace it to get a line, for instance, for calculations, and you can see that once we lift, it actually works quite well. So when you're done with everything and you're satisfied, you can just click on the reset key, and that will wipe everything away from the paper instantly. It just blinks, and then everything is gone. And the lock is a feature that competing Boogie boards don't offer. So there's a little switch on the side here. If I have it switched over to the right, that means it's in the lock mode. And now if I try and erase anything that's on the board by tapping on the key here, nothing will happen. So this is a great mode to be in if you put this into a backpack or into the case. So if something accidentally hits on the key during transit, it's still going to be displayed on here. Quick test of visibility, if I wanted to do something like write something very quickly, and then compare it to what it looks like if I wrote on a regular piece of paper with a pen, for instance. A pencil would actually be fainter, but if we write test, you can see the slight differences there. Since this one has an inverted or a negative display, I would say it's about the same overall, as long as you have a little bit of lighting. But if you are in a slightly darker environment, maybe the paper is still a little bit more legible. Using your phone's camera, if you want to scan something really quickly, that works actually really well, because if you enable flash on your phone, once it illuminates it, it actually becomes fully legible without any issues. Finally, the fact that it uses a coin battery is fine, considering it's very energy efficient, but I would have still preferred to see a rechargeable battery. That could have been even longer lasting, in my opinion, for most consumers. Alright, so that's been our hands-on review. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the 10-inch LCD writing tablet, and you can check out more details as well as our original coverage on the Boogie board on this channel. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.